All right, let's get into it, man. Let's get into it.
Yes,
What's good,
sir.
everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast. For today's episode, we're going to be discussing an interesting topic. We're going to be discussing how to figure out life. Now, let me give you a disclaimer real quick. We obviously do not have life figured out completely, but what I'll say is we at least have something that we're going to give you guys today that maybe you haven't thought about before. So hopefully that's enough to figure out life for you guys. Um, Featuring the boy Anthony. For the people that do not know you, Anthony,
Yes,
go ahead and
sir.
introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. It's Anthony, aka Chocolate Thunder. Boy
Okay, okay,
was born in Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory.
okay.
Yep, the main one. Uh, and if you ain't seen me on here by now, then yeah, you ain't been watching long enough. I'm gonna let
Facts.
you know that now.
That's facts. That's facts. So yeah, appreciate you for stopping by, Anthony. So
Of
like I said,
course.
we're gonna discuss this topic. A few things I want to mention before I go to get started. Make sure you go ahead and follow me on Rumble, TikTok, and also Twitch as well. Same thing at Life of a Champ podcast and all those as well. And then we're gonna get into today's. We're gonna get into today's topic. I'm gonna break it down for you, Anthony. And then like I said, if you guys have any questions or comments regarding the things that we're mentioning on today's episode, let me know. So like I said, how to figure out life. Obviously this is gonna be that's such like a broad thing, but I'm gonna like I said, I'm gonna give you this thing that I've observed within my thought process that have helped me out the most, right? This is going to be being able to curatively downsize your life essentially. And what I mean by that, if you don't understand either of those words, which I can completely understand it, but just being very selective and intentional with the things in which you would like to consume or do, more importantly. But there's a whole process. There's a whole process that goes beyond that, right? And I do believe it is going to be the key, literally one of the keys to life that's going to bring you the most fulfillment, and also going to lock you into the things that you need to be locked in about. But here's where you must start. Um, you must start understanding that you must start where most people are, unfortunately, right, Anthony? And I'm sure you have observed this time and time again, right?
Yeah,
There's people who are just aimlessly going through life, essentially, right? There's very few people that
so
actually
many.
are actually being strategic with this life, right?
Yeah,
And with that being said, there's gonna be an abundance of choices that are going to go through your mind when living life, and this is what honestly gets a lot of people distracted. Is they have an abundance of things to do, so they just do those abundant things that they don't actually think about anything deeper.
yeah.
And do you recognize that? Do you recognize it within the people? Have you seen a lot more people being intentional, or maybe a lot more people not being intentional?
Honestly, I've seen people just kind of just wander through life. I notice, so I'd say it's not intentional. I mean, they don't they don't. Here's the thing: the sad part is they don't actually notice this.
Yeah, I would
Like
say I would say
people aren't
unfortunately.
aren't even like awake to this concept. Like, hey, you're not doing the most. You're not getting the most out of your life.
Yeah, I would
They're,
like I said I
they're,
would agree. Unfortunately, with obviously me recognizing within people, but within this state, this is something that I think me and Anthony are very particularly good on. Is just being able to observe, just sit and able to watch a room, or to understand a certain situation, or be able to have a conversation that's going to get deeper than what the superficial conversation looks like typically. Right? Would you say that's a common thing within our conversations?
for sure, for sure. Those are actually the best
Oh
conversations
yeah,
too.
for sure.
They definitely take a while, but you have to have a mindset for it though.
Hmm.
It's not you can have deep conversations with anyone, but if they don't actually understand what it is, the message you're trying to get to them, then it's not really kind of like talking to a wall.
Yeah, yeah. I would like I
Yeah,
said, I would definitely agree. It honestly is. It is almost like talking to a wall for sure.
yeah. I've talked to a few walls before. They
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be hard to go through life without talking to a few at least.
yeah, it's
That's just being real with it. Hold up, we got a few comments real quick. Like I said, if you have any comments or questions regarding anything that we've mentioned on today's episode, like I said, leave it in the comments for sure. Jaden said, "Live life like they're in a Sims game." Exactly what it is. And so, like I said, let me go back to explaining this, right? So, like I said, you have this mode of being that most people are honestly going to be fulfilling, right?
yeah,
This mode of being is just being the observer state, essentially, the consuming state, the almost like a sponge. You have a bunch of inputs, right?
yeah,
That's pretty much the state that most people are in, and obviously there's going to be plenty of utility within this mode of being, right? But just with everything, there's probably going to be a more optimal way of being, right? Would you
Yeah,
agree?
yeah, of course.
And this is how to figure out life. This is in my opinion part of how to figure out life, right? Is from all those things that you go ahead and consume, right? There's going to be good things, bad things, whatever, right? You need to be very, very intentional with what you choose to repeat as going to be your programming, essentially. But what I mean by that is like is it really worth your time? Is it actually worth your time? And if it's not, then you obviously need to remove it. And if it is, then maybe you need to do it more, right? Maybe you need to try to implement it a certain specific way.
Yeah.
Um, with that being said, Anthony,
Hmm.
do you think that you think there's something there, or like I said, am I just talking about random shit?
Oh no, 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 for sure, for sure. You have to make sure what you're consuming is actually worth consuming, because a lot of people they don't get that. For they don't think about what they're consuming. They just think typically it's with the content people consume. They typically are some biased in one way or another towards it, right?
Okay,
At least towards the things that actually matter in the world, right?
okay,
And in order to go beyond that perspective, you have to look at it right with a completely unbiased balance. No matter how your feelings, what's called, suggest towards it, like what is the logical information that you should receive from this video? Like is the content you're what's it called, consuming worth it, right?
hmm
Like should you be changing what it is you're consuming? Because if you listen to someone, right, and you have one, and first you have a bias thing. Let's say it's in their favor, right? What they're saying sounds so appealing, right?
okay,
Makes you feel good, but most people don't go beyond that. It's like, hey, okay, just because it makes me feel good, but are you actually listening to what they're saying, though? If you
exactly,
actually listen to them, you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be listening to this person anymore because clearly their views don't align with mine.
exactly. And yeah, I would say, well, and here's the thing: not that there's no utility in getting another point of view, but at the same time, it's just like, is it needed really? In certain situations, it's not going to be needed. Of course, if you're trying to strengthen your argument, or yeah, if you're trying to strengthen your argument, then you're obviously going to need to view the opposition very, very thoroughly, because
Very
that
thoroughly.
would
Yeah.
obviously make sense. But in most cases, it's probably not going to be within your best interest to consume it, or there could be a potentially better thing to go ahead and consume. And so, like I was saying, right, there's going to be people who are going to be in this observer state, and then there's the people that are evolved in the more optimal state of being selectively intentional with what you go ahead and spend your time with, right? That is going to be that is like I said, that is how to live life in essence. And you can be able to tell the difference within individuals just by the way they move in life, and if they're even conscious of this idea or not, if they're just so caught up with life as opposed to like I said, just being able to go beyond the observer state, right? What do you
Yeah.
think about that?
Oh, for sure, for sure. There's actually an example of this for being able to go beyond on the observer state.
Okay,
Actually, I think as far as content goes, right?
okay,
And you'll see it in just how people are on social media, right? If you're one of the people who, right, can consume something, right, consume some information, whether it makes you feel good, bad, or whatever, right, and not comment on the video, right,
okay.
then I'd say you're more so in the right place. Because if if um if you consume content, right, and it makes you feel negatively about the what's it called,
The-
content that you're consuming, right,
Okay.
and you feel the need to comment on it, right, you're giving attention, extra time and attention to something that clearly doesn't align with your values. So I say just keep scrolling on that.
You're exactly right.
Honestly.
You're exactly right. And like I said, obviously
Feel it.
most people tend to hate and things like that. But like I said,
Yeah.
that's their choice. That's their choice at the end of the day. And like I said, they're gonna live with their choices. And like I said, if you're gonna be a hateful person, you're just gonna be a hateful person, right?
Yeah.
She said, "What would you say that in a way you become what you watch?" Yes, you become what you watch. You become what you do. You become the people that you are around. Things like that. You become all those things. I would say, but ultimately, like I said, I just find it interesting how more people are not being intentional, because here's the thing, and this is something that I mentioned on a previous podcast. There's a lot of people that do things that they know they shouldn't do, and they just do it anyways. And here's the thing, obviously you need to come to a point eventually where you say, okay, this is something that's worth doing, and this is something that's not worth doing. For example, there's a lot of people that have very, very like they choose to do certain things that's really, really affecting a lot of their life, right? And instead of going ahead and choosing something different, they're still in that observer state to the point where they're just experiencing it instead of knowing, instead of applying the knowledge that they've already learned from that experience. Does that make sense, Anthony?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's just because people they're not. Those people is because they get too comfortable in the comfort zone.
Okay.
Realistically, like if you know you can apply something, right? Obviously, typically with applications that will further your career, always come with risk, right?
Mhm.
It's the things is not everyone's. A lot of people aren't willing to take those types of risks because they're, I mean, they're high risk, high reward,
Mhm.
yeah, but it's like, but they get too caught up in the what if it doesn't go wrong, you know?
Oh yeah, I would say yeah.
If I get all that risk with no reward, then you're kind of fucked. I get that, right?
Yeah, of course.
But hey, if you feel strongly enough towards something, you should. Then the risk is always worth it. So
I would agree. I would agree for sure. Like I said, if you guys have any comments or questions regarding things that we're mentioning on today's episode, leave it in the comments for sure. There's gonna be a few more things that we're going to mention on today's episode. So, like I said, if you guys have any, if you guys want to engage, whether you're watching this or watching this live, definitely leave some comments for sure. But I want to kind of go back to, like I said, the aspect of figuring life out, right? So, with being an observer, in order to get past the observer state, you must be able to fully be able to utilize the observer state for what it actually is. Within the observer state, you're going to be able to answer questions and clarify things that you might not have been as clear to before. And like I said, that within those two things is potentially you experiencing it, or you knowing right from wrong. Essentially, I feel like that's going to be the moral base of that argument is you knowing right from wrong. Right, like I said, it's okay to be in the observer state sometimes because, like I said, there's utility. You can ask questions, things like that. But with that being said, eventually you should be able to get to a point where you're able to analyze the things that are truly the most important of life. And you're supposed to be able to do this, and I think you should be able to do this through understanding like an internal hierarchy for yourself. The things that seem more valuable than others, right?
yeah,
That's the way that I visually that I do it internally, I guess. Or go about it is I try to put it on to see where it falls in line with the value hierarchy. Is it near the top? Is it near the bottom? And right, like I said, I would say a lot of people right now more than ever are at a point where they're consuming things that are near the bottom, but they're not doing anything about it. Really, they're not adjusting their behavior. They're not being curative. Like I said, they're just being honestly a victim. They're a victim, and a lot of people, they know this shit's not actually helping them at all. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying?
yeah. I feel like that's a lot of content being put out is like that though. Like it's what's it called? Gravitated towards making people be victims of life.
Hmm.
As right now, like they're like you'll see a lot of motivational talk, a lot of things that can help you with your life on the internet, but and you look at the videos and you're thinking, yeah, like this can help 10,000, 11,000 people, and then you see all the nonsense stuff, and it's getting 100 times that amount of views. You're getting 10 million, 20 million views for consuming content that's actually probably worse for you,
Hmm.
honestly, and
Worse for you, right?
worse for you, yeah. And people eat it up. People eat that shit up. I don't. But but they got to find a way to once. But it kind of should just click at some point where it's like, all right, this is not useful to me.
Exactly.
This will not help me further myself in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, like I said,
Oh, yeah.
you need to be able to get to that point. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what you value, and what you find importance
Yeah.
in. And like I said, you figure that out through being the observer state, right? That's, like I said, the first thing, of course. And if you were to actually, and one thing I want to mention with this as well, and I think we're kind of getting into it eventually, Anthony, which was the concept of, you said that people putting out content, and just maybe there's some content out there that's not gonna, like, do anything for you, or, like I said, improve you, or in any specific way.
Yeah.
I think a lot more people need to be aware of understanding what advice actually applies to them and what advice doesn't, right? I see a lot of people who, they potentially could be saying good advice, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the podcast, I guess.
Yeah.
I could be saying good advice, but it's only going to apply to the amount of people that it's going to apply to. It's not going to be universal good advice. I would like to say I probably give out as much good universal advice as I possibly can.
Yeah.
but it's not going to be applicable to everybody because, like I said, maybe there's going to be certain people that don't have value or find value in the things that I talk about, or
Well,
the things that are talked about in general within anything.
well, yeah. The problem, yeah. Another problem is a lot of people here. Not enough people are listening though.
Okay, okay. Preach, Anthony. Preach.
Yeah, it's like they hear your words, right?
Okay.
Like they hear what you're saying, but it's just noise. It's not That's not what it is. They don't see the structure of the actual words themselves. There's power in the words,
hmm
but people blur it.
Well, people don't understand what power even looks like
Yeah,
off the rip.
that's true.
That's a whole nother thing. Like I said, that's where the extending beyond that observer state is super important because now you begin to evaluate what's actually important. See
Yeah,
what I'm saying? It all kind of goes back to the same root cause, I would say, and I feel like that's where people get things wrong with trying to figure out this life. And like I said, I'm just giving you some advice at the end of the day. But like I said, it's gonna apply to some. It's not gonna apply to others. You do what you got to do with any type of content that you're gonna go ahead and consume, right? Whether you agree with it completely or not, you're gonna take what you can and leave the rest. That's all you're gonna do at the end of the
yeah,
day, right? And like I said, I feel like a lot of people need to be a lot more aware of that as well. Um, because like I said, good advice is only good to the people who it can actually apply to. What do you
yeah,
think about that, Anthony?
yeah. Of course, of course. If advice, good advice is always is I'd say is can always be good advice, but it's useless if the person it's being given to can never apply or has no intention of ever applying it.
And the intention is that's good.
Exactly. The advice just becomes a waste of breath at that point. So obviously that's why when I give out advice, I only give it out to a select group of people, right? Like
Mhm.
sometimes people won't even get my input. I'll get only times I give advice is to someone I know who's actually willing to listen to what the advice is, because after enough years, you just like, all right, I've been telling you talk to people, they don't change anything. It's just like, all right, well, this is a cry on deaf ears at this point.
You're right.
So advice. That's why advice is only as good as the person who's receiving it, because well, what's the point of giving someone advice if they don't want to take it?
Yeah, like I said,
Well,
I can give you everything you need, but if you don't use it, shit, then like I said, there's no utility. There's no utility to either of us, honestly.
I can give you the money. It don't matter if you ain't buying your future.
Facts. That is facts. That is facts. I want you to get a little bit deeper into that. Like I said, with your point that you had mentioned with what the advice entails.
What the advice entails.
Yes.
The advice itself is they're actual. These are keys to unlock a better version of yourself, right?
Okay.
Obviously, full disclaimer. I actually also forgot to mention earlier. All of this is easier said than done.
Yeah. Right.
I forgot about that disclaimer earlier. All of this is easier said than done. Um, but advice is our keys, right?
Okay.
These are keys to find to literally to see the better perspective, right? The perspective you're missing, right?
Okay.
You can get a lot of the curative and downsizing, right? You can do that if like that's kind of what advice is really. It's curative downsizing for you realistically, right? If it's given out properly, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's observing the experience, going through the experience, understanding many ways in which it could have went, and still deciding on one thing. You give that advice to somebody else. They view that they're getting a curative downsized version of what a person had already perceived in that same circumstance.
exactly. And now the person who can the person who can't receive that advice has it in their brain, presses delete, right?
Mm-hmm.
The person who knows how to use that, right, hits copy and paste.
Facts.
And now they're in the same they're saying in the same predicament, and they can give that advice to someone else who needs it. But that also betters them, right, and turns them into the person that they could have been
Mm-hmm.
or wouldn't be if they had pressed delete.
So you're basically saying more motherfuckers need to copy and paste. Motherfuckers hit
Oh
and
yeah,
delete too much.
oh yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
you're saying, right?
at least for advice, yeah. Copy and paste advice, yeah.
That's for sure, for sure. Like I said, not all advice is copy and paste, but you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm
Good advice, good
saying.
advice. Copy and paste, good advice.
Yeah. So like Anthony had mentioned, right? With getting advice in general, it's just curative downsizing. It's understanding what is important, what is not important, recognizing that, and then also being able to evaluate everything else of what is important, and then making a decision based off all of those thoughts. And like I said, that is pretty much the premise for today's episode. Like I said, how to figure out life, But like I said, I want to kind of get back to this point that I had mentioned earlier in the beginning. There's going to be a few different states that do exist. Now you must recognize and observe which one you are in right now, right? Like I said, for the most part, most people are going to be within the observer state, the observer phase. We can call it whatever you would like, right?
Passive.
Where they're passive. You're exactly right. They're just a victim of life. They're experiencing different things, trying out new things. And like I said, there's plenty of utility and plenty of things that need to be learned and wisdom to be found within doing that and being in that state. But at the same time, you must be able to eventually transcend this state, or you're constantly going to be in the same type of or the same cycles that you've already experienced and already learned from. What do you think about that, Anthony?
Yeah, hell yeah. I mean,
He said, "Hell yeah."
sorry, I was just
Go ahead.
I was building on that in my own head, and I got caught up a little bit.
Y'all good? Go ahead.
So people who get caught in this cycle, it's kind of like they're in limbo.
Okay.
Like they're stuck in this state. But here's the thing, because limbo is like literally teetering. You know how limbo is between life and death, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is basically difference between existing in this world and living in this world, pretty much. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of people are just existing here, right? But whether they know it or not, right, they're not living the best version of themselves, and it's because they're still observative right now. They're not.
They're conscious, or they're awake, but they're not conscious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Sleepwalking.
They're sleepwalking.
Yeah.
Wow, Anthony, Jesus Christ.
I mean,
Really sleepwalking out here.
yeah, exactly. But have you seen Step Brothers? You don't wake someone while they're sleepwalking, right?
Why is that?
Because, well, at least in the movie, they started going crazy. They tore that house up. But here's the thing, right? So you got to wait till they're. So when people are just completely blind, sometimes you can't. They're maybe too far gone, right? That's
Too
what I'm
far
talking about.
gone.
But if they can reach back to the point where they're sleeping, you can wake them up.
That is true.
They're
true.
not walking. Yep.
But like I said, they up.
Yeah.
They are awake.
That gets off topic, but it still applies though.
Oh, 100%. Hold on, let me read this comment real quick. People are really just stuck in a victim mindset and believe that everything is happening to them and have no control over their life. Hold up, give me a second.
My bad. I'm about to call you up.
Oh, bro, back. All right, my bad. Okay.
My bad.
Hold up. They have no control over their life. Hold up. Yeah, Anthony, you can take care of that.
I'm gonna text him really quickly.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Let me read this comment over again because I'm getting caught up. People are really just stuck in a victim mindset and believe that everything is happening to them and that they have no control over their life. Yeah, what you must realize is you're supposed to be happening to life. I feel like that's another mindset that most people need to acquire. You're happening to life. Not life is not happening to you. You're happening to life. If you're able to have that lens, I would say, because there's going to be a lens of saying, it's like a smaller lens essentially, right? You see, you have a smaller sight, right? You're saying, why is this happening to me? Like I said, understanding and adopting that victim mindset, and then there's the view that says that's I guess that zoomed out a little bit more that says, okay, well, I need to be happening to life, right?
Yeah.
I need to be happy to life. I need to be applying myself. I need to be taking action. I need to be staying disciplined. All those certain things, and then like I said, there's the lens that is beyond all those, which is basically almost going back to the same thing that happened in the beginning, where understanding that like I said, life is just gonna happen to you. I'm not gonna say happen to you, but essentially you're gonna experience life. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But you also need to be happening to life as well. Make sense? But you gotta have both. You gotta have both paradigms, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think it goes back to what I said earlier. This is a lot easier said than done.
That's for sure.
This will take time.
But like I said, hopefully,
years.
Yeah.
This will take years. They say that this ain't a one and done type project, but it is very helpful because your life isn't just a one. Well, actually,
go ahead.
Yeah, as far as we know, this life is a one and done project. However, it doesn't go by so fast. So
that's facts. But like I said, if you guys have any questions or comments regarding anything that were mentioned on today's episode, leave it in the comments for sure. Appreciate you guys for stopping by. Anthony, stop messing with me.
So I just realized it does go by so fast. I was like,
man,
you got time, but not as much time as you think.
That's right. For sure.
Yeah. That means you got to start now.
All right, we're good now. We're good now. We're good now.
My
Okay.
bad. It's just,
Y'all good, man. Y'all good.
it's just a habit. I'm just playing with the wire.
I'll fix it later.
I
I'll
need
fix
to
it later.
stop. I need to stop. I'm gonna chill.
All right. So like I said, let me see if there's anything else that I've left out or that I have left out potentially. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna kind of go in with that as well. Like I said, I'm gonna bring in this self development aspect, this phase that I've seen within myself that I think applies to this when it comes to figuring out life as well. Um, I see a lot of people, especially within the self improvement space, that are in a state where they're spewing or talking about good advice or maybe a good intention. They have a good intent because they've consumed a lot of good content, right? Like I said, they were curative and with their downsizing, right?
Yeah.
They're curative with their downsizing. Um, and when you get to the point where you're curative with your downsizing, hold up, let me see. There's a comment real quick.
That's my boy Bubba. He
That's
said,
crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna
Oh,
talk
shit.
about that later, man.
You know,
So,
I'll text you about that. I don't think I want that one online.
all right. That's fine.
I'll text you about that one after the pod, Bubba.
All right. Okay. Getting back to what I was saying. Yeah. So I see a lot of people within self development that are getting to the point where they're spewing good advice, right? And maybe they're even thinking about taking action on certain pieces of advice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their mind's being consumed by it. And like I said, it's a good thing to be consumed by if it was actually applying to your life. But like I said, there's only going to be certain advice that can be applied to your life, or certain advice that you can actually take and apply or take action to. And if you're a person that is just spewing things that, like I said, a person can't take action to, then obviously you're not in the ideal position for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people you can get absolutely nothing from.
No, that's unfortunately the truth.
Like, unfortunate truth, but it is the truth.
Like I said, if you guys have any questions regarding the podcast, make sure you go to Tavin. Appreciate it.
Specified that one, huh?
Yeah, I gotta go ahead. I got to.
Yeah. Smart man.
And yeah, I'll get back on that as well. It's like that's where I was within my self development journey. And like I said, it was just because I was in the process of like I said, downsizing essentially. And this is something that I see within all people that I've observed that have been within the self development space is, yeah, like I said, they get to a point where they understand what advice actually applies to them and what things that they should be thinking about and focused on, because not everything, even if it has good intention, is worth your focus or worth your application as well. And it's only going to be up to you to observe thoroughly enough, like I said, being in that phase long enough where you understand how to properly move, as opposed to being like everybody else who truly don't know how to properly move.
Facts. A lot of people don't know how to truly properly move. What was that? I had something to say on this, and I completely lost it.
It's okay. You can get it back.
Okay.
You'll get it back.
I get it back.
What was I going to say? But yeah, like I said, what phase are you in? Are you in the phase of,
Oh,
if you okay, go ahead.
sorry. No, I was that's what I was talking about. Phases. I was like, it was just me personally. I was like, I'm actually not in either phase at the moment. I'm more like in a transitioning phase.
Okay, let's talk about it.
From observant to curative.
Okay.
Like I already know which content I don't need to be consuming, and I'm rapidly starting to get rid of that. I'm just like, I don't need a lot of, just keep swiping, keep scrolling, whatever.
Yeah.
But I haven't quite reached as far into the active side. Like
Okay.
I'm still working on those skills.
Like I said, I'm sure there's probably a lot more people that are within that category.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a transition. Like as a matter of fact, the initial transition from not getting rid of the content you don't need. Actually, I'd say that's actually one of the easier parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the transitioning into the being the active person now, right? Doing all the now stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you realize though, like people will realize that you get great fulfillment when you start doing the things that you do need to be doing.
Exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Like they're some of them are tedious, but they give you like that you get that feel good feeling,
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I did something right today.
Yeah. Is there anything that you do
That's when you
that you feel that same type of way, Anthony?
Not particularly. Only when that paycheck hits, man.
That's
ain't
crazy.
ain't no feeling like it right now.
He said that's crazy. He said, I'm still trying to figure. He's still trying to. It's in the transition period, man.
I mean, here's the thing. My feel good feeling also comes from just from having a spotlight on me. Even if I ain't saying nothing, I'm like,
This motherfucker.
just kind of like got that Tupac feeling, you know, all eyes on me.
That's crazy.
I kind of enjoy that. So I mean, so I was like, because it tells me, hey, I'm doing something or I'm saying something that's worth getting your attention. So I get
Maybe it's worth somebody's attention. I'll tell you that.
Exactly.
What's it going? Hey, like I said, if you guys have any questions regarding anything that we've mentioned on today's episode, I'm gonna go ahead and run through it one more time, just so everybody who's coming in right now is getting the same type of information. I'm gonna kind of like sum it up, but
Hold up.
essentially, what?
Did I basically just say I'm an attention whore?
That's crazy. Yeah, but you did. It's okay, Anthony. It's okay. He just figured that shit out. It's fine. So like I said, the topic for today's episode is how to figure out life, right? Do we have life figured out? We do not have life figured out. But what I will say is I have life more figured out than a lot of people that I've talked to, right? You can only observe this through conversation. And I have a very, very good ability to have good conversation with a lot of different types of people. And with that being said, I can say this truly. So, like I said, when I say how to figure out life, like I said, I'm not giving you this one solution fix all to all your problems in life. That's not what this podcast is for. I'm just trying to give you something to think about. That's it. So when it comes to how to figure out life, there's a few different phases and a few different ways that you kind of want to go about this, right? The first phase is going to be the observer phase. Like I said, you're a sponge to the information that is being thrown at you, essentially, right? With consuming content. Or, like I said, your own experiences that you have going on within your life. And it's funny that when we talk about existing, it's interesting to observe how much of our existence is predicated on content consumption. And like I said, I find it most interesting that people never get to the point of curating the content that they go ahead and consume. Right? I find that very, very interesting because it's something that I've done and I did at 17. That completely changed my entire life for the betterment. Yeah. And it's funny how, like I said, we're talking about this. It sounds like we're talking about a younger crowd, but it's actually very, very disturbing of how much it's not. It goes beyond the younger crowd.
Oh yeah.
You think you're supposed to like progress and like develop past that, right?
Yeah. I've actually seen some of this happen with the people I work with too, because they're obviously most of the people in my field are a lot older than I am. Mm-hmm. Or I work in construction, if that's any context. A lot of these guys, well, not a lot of them, but I've seen a few of them, right? Okay. They're just work. Mm-hmm. Right? They're like I'm working now. I'm gonna be working till the day I die. I'm just like, I'm sorry to hear that. I can't be as one track minded as that, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, don't get me wrong. By all means, if simply just working is working for you, then go with it. But I'm like, I'm gonna need to do more than that, you know? At some point, I'm gonna have to be able to, like, work to where I can choose when I don't want to work, you know? Mm-hmm. Work hard enough to, like, I'm not gonna work hard just to get the same results as I had last week, right?
Exactly.
That's what some of that working is that they're talking about. It's like you work, and if you're working the same hours, then this paycheck is gonna look the exact same as next paycheck now.
Exactly. So like I said, you got to be able to change something up, and like I said, this kind of goes hand in hand with the podcast that we're talking about. Like I said, how to figure out life. Yeah. When it comes to figuring out life, when you extend beyond that, like observer state, right? The observer state is essentially the one that you had described with the coworkers, where they're like, "Oh yeah, work." That's one way of living. Now you must analyze and say, "I could easily do that." That's the worst case scenario within life, but what's better than that? Yeah. And then you like you had mentioned, you clearly define, hey, this is specifically what's better than that lifestyle. Okay, then you begin to like I said, then you begin to take action and say, okay, so now this is not what I want to. This is not how I want to live. How do I structure my life in a way where I can eventually get to the point where I'm not living there. I'm not on that same type of track. Does that make sense? Yeah. And like I said, that's where you extend beyond that observer state, like I mentioned. What do you think?
Yeah, that's pretty smooth, actually. Like I'd
go ahead. Let's hear it.
I just think I'll be getting so deep into some of these moments. Sometimes I just lose some of what will be getting said. But
It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, essentially,
like,
the observer state, and then you have the more of like the action, or like I said, Anthony said the in between state where you're trying to you're figuring it out and you're applying some of it.
yeah,
You're seeing what fits and what doesn't fit. Obviously, I would say that's probably where most people are. But then you get to the point, like I said, the action phase, where you start recognizing and observing your environment very, very closely. You start observing the behaviors of other people, and you start questioning and asking questions in where people don't ask questions or ask enough questions with. Like I
exactly.
said,
Yeah.
the certain problems that most people have. Would you say?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I feel like once they reach that state that you're talking about, that active state, when they're asking questions, stuff like that, I feel like that's where people really reach their that's where they find their purpose. I'd
Hmm.
say that's a good place where people can find their purpose. If they're looking for it though, that's they'd have to actually that's a good way to find purpose is through this thought process.
I would agree.
Yeah, because then when you start asking that questions, you start to wonder like, where do I need to insert myself in this world?
Hmm
Yeah, and then you find your purpose. You find that.
Exactly. You're
Yeah,
exactly right. You start to become clear. Like I said, the world when you're in that observer state is very, very blurry. You're just trying to figure shit out.
yeah,
And like I said, motherfuckers stay in that blurry state, or they choose to stay within that blurry state because you know living life a little bit more clear. There's a lot more consequences essentially because now you know from right from wrong.
yeah,
Fully know right from wrong.
you know, yeah,
But like I said, I find that interesting as well. So yeah, I want to get back on that point that I mentioned earlier. How when we were talking about like living and how like people when we're mentioning like our own experiences and things like that, things that need to be curated. Like I said, the content's like a huge thing, right?
yeah,
And like I said, it's I find that very, very interesting how you eventually get to that point and you're supposed to be able to mature past that. And I think people lose the ability to self govern themselves after they get to a certain point within their life, and they kind of just give up. They give up. There's a certain point within every person's life that I've ever like talked to where I'm like, okay, they fell off right here.
mm-hmm.
This is where they fell off. They stopped asking questions. They stopped wanting more. They stopped. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They get to that content, comfortable point that you had mentioned, and
complacent.
like I said, what can you do that's different from that type of person? Like I said, that's the question. That's the questions and the type of questions I ask personally.
Yeah. So what? So basically, what did they do wrong? Where did they go wrong
Hmm
to made them that led them to stop?
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah, and like I said, that's part of that curative phase, that curative downsizing, where you're understanding there's many ways that you can go about this life. There's many ways that everybody else around you is going about this life. Now you ask the question: Do I want like the next guy over here? Do I want to live like him? I don't want to live like him. Okay, what can I do that's going to be different and it's going to avoid me from living the life that he's living? You
yeah,
see what I'm saying, right?
yeah.
Once you begin asking these questions,
Oh, so it's like what did he said? What did he do wrong? Okay, I'm gonna make sure that doesn't happen to me. Yeah,
mhm,
yeah. That's actually pretty smooth. I feel. I mean, it happens to people differently, right? How they stumble upon certain content, but it's once they actually goodness, it's once they actually what's it called consume the right proper content. Where are they willing to go with it?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But
But like I said, there's not enough people that even get to that point. That's what I'm saying. That's that. I feel like that's ultimately the problem. Like I said, with figuring out life, you have to discuss the problems because obviously there's many problems that come with life, right?
yeah,
But yeah, like I said, if you guys have any questions or comments regarding anything that we've mentioned on today's episode, let me know in the comments. Um, I would love to hear you guys' input on some of the things that we have mentioned.
yeah.
I'm sure Anthony would as well. So leave a comment if you're either rewatching this or watching this live.
Yeah, and Bubba, I'm not sure if you missed what I said earlier, but I'll talk to you about that after.
Yeah,
If you
like I
still in
said, you
there,
got it.
I'll let you know about that after the pod.
Let me check Twitch. Let me check Twitch. Nah, we ain't on that. All right, cool. All right. Let's see if there's anything else that I want to mention that we haven't exactly touched on. But yeah, I would say there's a whole lot that you could really go about with this specific podcast, and especially within some of the ideas that I've mentioned earlier, where you can kind of begin to ask certain questions. Like I said, hopefully this podcast is just at the very least not only giving you advice, but just giving you a different type of input that maybe you're not used to getting. a different type of stimulus that's going to give you different ideas. That's all I hope this podcast is for most people. And that is the way that I've figured out life a little bit more than, like I said, when observing other people. I figured out life a little bit more because I was willing to ask questions that most people are not willing to ask themselves, right? That's like I said, that's one of the ways of going about how to figure out this life is asking the questions that people are unwilling to ask. Because, like I said, sometimes the answer is very, very painful. If you become immune to this pain and you become very, very raw and real with yourself, you're able to tap into a different level of authenticity, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. What was I gonna say?
I don't know.
Yeah,
You got it.
yeah, when you become that different version of yourself, that's when you like stop caring about the opinions of the ones that didn't ask the questions, you know, because those are typically the ones that you see not that are critiquing you after you have asked the questions, right? Is the ones who are either biased in your favor or against your favor, you know. But the only reason why they would even have an opinion is because they haven't asked the question yet.
That's potential. Yeah, that actually is true. Yeah, they haven't gotten to that point yet. Like I said, I'm just trying to help people get to that point a lot quicker. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what we're trying to do. But like I said, you must first ask questions. Essentially, I feel like that's what it comes down to with how to figure out life, right? That's the conclusion we came to. It's going to come down to the amount of questions you ask yourself. If you want to be different than everybody else around you, if you observe the life that everyone else around you is living and you're not content with that type of life, you can't do the same shit they're doing.
Yeah. First, you
can't think the same way.
First, you gotta ask questions, right?
Okay.
Then you gotta get out of your comfort zone next before you can even take that big risk. You know, get out of your comfort. Then second, you gotta get out of your comfort zone. After ask questions, right? Get comfortable in your lack of comfort.
Okay.
And then after that, you take your risk, but make sure you take it where it's best possible outcome in your favor. You have to consume all that knowledge that you want for what you want, you know, before you can just. You know, if you're gonna take a big risk, you got to come fully prepared for that risk.
Exactly, you're exactly right, and I feel like that's exactly why I've done this podcast. Everything that you mentioned is essentially coming to that conclusion eventually.
Yeah.
But you know, you're exactly right. The way you described it is actually perfect. Actually, it's pretty solid, Anthony. Yeah. Pretty solid. Sure. You've outdone yourself this time, Anthony.
Yeah, that was off the dome. I'm not even going to count.
That's funny. Let's see. Maybe they have a negative opinion because there's some kind of jealousy. They see you doing what they couldn't. Come on now.
Yeah. There's the thing. That's interesting because jealousy is easily one of the most confusing, emotions to me. Because I heard people say that to me before. You're jealous. It's like I'm gonna tell you this right now, and this is no cap 100%. I have never once and never will I ever be jealous of anyone ever. All right, and that's because I'm my own person. Right. There's literally never any need for jealousy, right? Instead of being jealous of someone makes absolutely no sense because it's like, okay, you're mad because they're doing good. Why be mad? If anything, you should be glad that they're doing good, right? Good. It's a good thing that you're doing good. Tell me how. That's what you ask your question. How did you get good so I can get good?
Or even get better.
Or even get better, exactly. But here's the thing: you only get that advice if you're someone who actually can apply that advice. And so first circle back around, we talked about advice.
You're exactly right. But like I said, you first have to first put yourself in that open mindset. I would say being open is, I would say, is probably going to be the key. Another key to life is just being open instead of just being very closed off.
There's way too many closed-minded people.
You got to know when to be open, and you got to know when to be closed.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'll say. Because like I said, having always be open. That's not always great. That's not always great advice.
Not always, but
always being closed. That's obviously not ever great advice. Always, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I'm closed on a few things myself. I know what it means. Yeah.
Like I said, here's the thing. You must be, if you're gonna be closed on something, you must be reasonably closed. That's for damn sure.
Oh no, I'm not reasonably closed on this one, but I mean, but it's not something that applies heavily, right, to life. It's mostly my food palate. I'm a very picky eater. There's things I want. There's thing, and I know I'm closed off on it because I'm not eating that, right? I never even tried it before. It might be good. I can't tell if it don't look good. I'm not eating it. So I understand what it's like to be that closed off. So
For sure, for sure. Like I said, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
yeah.
Look what Heem said.
What did he say? He said, "Whoa, stop flexing." Who flexing? I ain't even flexing at once. Most I did was this, and I'm not even flexing. I just got my hands behind my head.
He get your man's man. Get your man's man.
Chilling.
He tried it. He tried it, man. He tried it.
Am I flexing?
He caught him in AK apparently. He caught you in AK
He caught me an AK.
apparently, or maybe I caught you in AK apparently.
I've been caught an AK before. This ain't one at a time. Your defense speaks for itself. What defense? I ain't defends myself.
This motherfucker. Okay.
I'm just giving you the facts, Heem.
Heem, I want to know your take on today's episode. Like I said, figuring out life, right? Asking questions about life. And like I said, the main premise of this episode was essentially the idea that I had, which is basically the key to life is to have a curative downsizing to only the most important things of life, right? You gotta almost overlearn the system to the point where you can strategically make certain decisions that are going to be best for your life, right? That's pretty much the only way to really go about it. Just showing hard work and dedication. Yeah, shout out to grandma. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
She got your back. She got your back. Okay.
I appreciate
clean
it.
save.
Too.
Clean save.
I
Clean save.
appreciate it.
That's funny. But
I
yeah,
didn't realize. I just got here. Sadly, I was working like always, but yeah,
appreciate it. But yeah, essentially, like I said, I'm gonna repeat this. I'm gonna repeat this idea one more time, right? The premise of the podcast is this: understanding that the key to life is to have curative downsizing, right? Like I said, you're able to observe everything. You're able to observe experiences. You're going through experiences yourself. You're consuming a lot of different things, right? You're getting a lot of things and a lot of inputs, right? And a lot of stimulus, right? But the key to life is essentially observe all these things, find out what is only the most important, and only do the most important things. Most people, like I said, are stuck in the observer phase. Essentially, they're unwilling to go ahead and change certain things or do certain things that are going to extend beyond them just consuming or just being in that consuming state.
wow. I actually just came up with the perfect analogy for this. It's actually crazy.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, it's remember you said it's like you're a sponge, right?
Yeah.
Well, picture this, right? You're a sponge, right?
Okay. Sponge.
And as far as content goes, right? You got half of you as a sponge is in dirt. The other you as a sponge is in soap.
Okay.
Right? If you soak up all that dirt, right?
Okay.
Know what that sponge does? It gets heavy
That's true.
and it drowns,
Okay.
right? It's sunk to the bottom, right? That's how you get stuck in the observative zone, right? That's the information you squeeze up. You squeeze up too much of the dirt, now you're sinking, right? If you soak a sponge though in soap, right?
Okay.
That's all that good content. That Johnny gonna float, my boy.
It's gonna flow. That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. But yeah, a big thing to me would be like if you said being able to simply after overstimulating and accumulating experiences. Yeah, like I said, you gotta be able to. I would say one of the most beautiful things of life is like I said, you need to overlearn and understand that life is very very hyper complicated, but at the same time, your ability to make it very very simple and make it very very consumable for people to go ahead and apply it to their lives. I feel like that's somewhat of the key to life in there, in my opinion. Because like I said, life is very very complex. Those who are able to describe life in a way that is very very simple are able to get the most out of life and are able to show people that as well.
Yep. That's what great quotes are born and minds are opened. Yep.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Like I said, if you guys have any more questions or comments, we're gonna go ahead and end it off here in a minute. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. I appreciate all the contributions. And like I said, hopefully you guys got something from this. If you did, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. I'd be impressed if you didn't.
I mean, if they didn't, I'm sorry to say they're stuck in that observative group. I mean,
like I said, most of them get lost in the sauce, man. Like I said, there's a lot of sauce out here, man. Don't get lost.
Luckily, since this is streaming, you can go back and watch it again.
Yeah, if you need to watch the shit over again, I would definitely recommend it for sure. Yeah. Like I said, there's definitely a lot of wisdom that has been acquired to be able to speak about these experiences. We say Gucci has the best quote. Is that what he said?
Yep.
If you know, you know. Okay. I was locked out. Maybe I'm like a minute behind. It's fine.
That's what I need to know what
Okay. Gucci. Okay. Fine.
what you got. Nah, I'm not. You gonna have to tell me that afterwards. I ain't playing games with that one.
He said, I'm gonna need to know. I'm gonna need to know for sure.
Nah, for real.
But I'm trying to see. There's anything else that I want to talk about in today's episode? Yeah, essentially, a few things I'll say before I go and end it off. Ask questions. That's the only way that you're going to be able to get further along with this life. Your ability to ask questions, being able to come to clear and concise answers, is going to say a lot about where you're headed in this life. That's pretty much. Don't be like everybody else. Stand out. Like I said, we need more people that stand out. And the way to do it is to ask questions that they're unwilling to ask, essentially.
For sure. Bro said, I don't know the Gucci code. I didn't either before.
All right, here he has. Okay, read it out loud, Anthony.
Said, a man that is lost does not have the sauce, but the same man can be lost in the sauce. Hey, that's actually a fire quote. I'm not gonna cap.
That is true. That is true.
As far as sauce quotes go, that one's A1. I'll give you that.
He said he's impressed. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Anthony, do you have any last second thoughts that you want to go ahead and say before we go ahead and end it off? Maybe some motivation for the people. Something.
Motivation for the people. I'm lost in the sauce, gang.
Okay, it's okay, AJ.
It's okay.
Dad joke.
You got a little bit too much dip on your chip, bro. That's all that is.
Too much dip on the chip. Okay.
Yeah, he long.
Yeah. Do you have any advice you want to give to the people? Maybe it's something that's completely unrelated.
Completely unrelated.
Yeah. Let's hear what you got off the dome.
Let's see, what do I got?
Let me give you guys some game, fellas. Go ahead, Anthony.
No, you gotta go first, man. I got.
Oh, hell no! I got a podcast, G.
I gotta cook something up.
All right. I'm gonna let him cook.
Okay.
I'll give y'all something. Give me 1 second though. I'm just gonna give you something based off of what we talked about today. Oh, this is gonna be easy then. I'll make sure this is easy for me then. I'm gonna sum up something that you had mentioned. You'd mentioned earlier. I want to sum it up with that essentially.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is this: only give advice to people that you believe potentially are open enough to actually take the advice. Do not give advice to somebody that is unwilling to hear the advice. They're not ready for it. And that's pretty much what I have to say, man. Like I said, understand. Hopefully, your ability to understand if a person's going to take the advice or not, or potentially can't take the advice, or potentially even being open to the advice, obviously is going to depend on you. But at the same time, like I said, if you're able to give somebody good advice, good advice is only going to be applied to those who actually can apply it. Most advice that is out there that is good advice doesn't apply to you, so therefore you can't do anything with it. That's pretty much what I have to say. Okay, Anthony, what do you got?
What I got? All right. Don't fake it till you make it. Make it till you made it right.
Make it till you make it?
No, make it till you made it right.
Okay.
You'll make it. You'll break it. You'll make it wrong. Make it till you make it right.
Okay. He's cooking.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate y'all for stopping by. Like I said, if you make sure go ahead and leave a like if you did enjoy it.
One more note. Though.
Okay. Good.
Fuck the Lakers. All right.
Okay.
That's
fine.
all I got.
Yeah. Here's the thing. That's a good way to end the podcast, man.
I forgot that disclaimer too. I may be wearing the Suns Dreamer shirt, but I am a Celtics fan. I forgot to make that disclaimer.
But it's Dreamer though. It's Dreamer though.
So it is Dreamer.
You got to give it to
him. So it's a tough jersey. It is a Dreamer jersey. I wouldn't rep my own team. I wouldn't. What's it called? Disrespect my own team.
Come on.
I rep for my gang. Yes, sir.
There you go. So he had to say that. So appreciate everyone for stopping by. This was episode 165 of the Life of a Champ podcast, talking about how to figure out life, featuring the boy Anthony. Like I said, Anthony, you already said what you need to say, right?
Yes, sir.
And Cold World for L. Yeah, you already know what time it is, man.
Yes, sir.
But I appreciate y'all for stopping by. I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto. Fellas out here, man, we don't just work around here, man.
We outwork.
So make sure y'all working these motherfuckers because you know that we are, man. We already got the work in for today, man. Put the work in while you was sleeping, man. You know how it is, man. Hey, champ, what car do you drive? Irrelevant question.
Trey. Oh my goodness.
All right. I drive a Lambo, my guy. All right. Y'all have a good rest of your night. Like I said, tap out the next podcast is going to be on Thursday. Make sure you go and follow me on Rumble, follow me on Twitch, and follow me on TikTok as well. Just at Life of a Champ podcast on all those. Like I said, make sure y'all work at these motherfuckers. You know that we going to be out working these motherfuckers. Next podcast is on Thursday. Tap in. And y'all have a good rest of your night, man. You have anything you want to say to the people? We're going to end off, Anthony.
Bro said he drive a Lambo. Yeah, fuck the Lakers again.
All right, bet. That's how we're going to end it off. Y'all have a good night, man.